$700 billion, that's how much the global sports industry generates, and it supports millions of jobs. Yet in Malaysia, it's not seen as a viable career choice for many of us. Why is that? Let's start with Dr. Harmi.
Well, like I said just now, sports is not just to be in there as a player. There's a lot of other industry to support sports. And it's part of a growing industry in the world and in Malaysia. So, like we've been discussed, only 1% out of 100, we can only find one in the whole Jamaica. Only one Usain Bolt. So, what about the rest? So, I mean, so there's a lot of other industry supporting sports, as Datuk was saying that can be part of football. Not necessarily being a player. Sometimes you need to know that there's a lot of other things in sport, and that's to educate people, to educate them.
Is there lack of awareness on the supporting industries?
Yes, that is the culture,
sports?
like I said, a culture. Culture is not just a culture, go and play football every evening or play tennis, but the culture is the whole setup, the whole surrounding, the parents, the kids, and people must understand. Sport is not just what you see on the field. It's what around there. It's a lot more. You could have 11 players in a team, but the whole squad consists of 30, 40, including the physio, including the coaches and everything. So you can be part of that as well in sports.
However, Dr. Wirdati, your thoughts about, there are a lot of career opportunities, but the path is not as well defined in Malaysia.
Well, when we talk about industry, sports industry, we are talking about the professionalization of sports itself. And based on the literatures, there are 3 phases. The first one is the solidifying of foundations, knowledge, theoretical foundations. The second one is the creation of subculture. And the third one is the acceptance from the community. In Malaysia right now, I would say that we are going to the second stage where we have the theoretical foundations. We have the sports schools. We also have the universities. I think more than 10 universities are offering sports management courses, sports-related, sports sciences courses, and that generates a lot of demands from the students going into sports schools, sports universities as well, courses in the universities. But we are still lacking in the second stage where we talk about the creation of subculture. Professional careers like lawyers or doctors, they have professional guilds that took care of the people in the industry. We don't have that as yet. So by definition, professional in Malaysia will have to be based on acts. But there are other definitions of professionals. We already have the professional football leagues, for example, in terms of the kind of financial interest that this industry generates. A research in 2013 saw that the estimation of the value of Malaysian sports industry is around 37 billion ringgit. So there is money in this business. But again, when we talk about the career paths, it is the creation of the subculture. It is not yet complete. And before we go to the final stage, which is the community sanction, where people will accept, if you wanted somebody to manage sports, you'll have to get somebody who graduated from a sports management course. That is still in the works, I would say.
Well, I think the sport as an industry, I mean, I would define it even wider than how you've defined it. I think that sport transcends all walks of life and everything. And until take one sport, until you've grown that sport from the point of view of the participants, the athletes, and the juniors and the players and the spectators and the interest, it's very difficult for, and this probably goes on to Marcus in a minute, for people to get involved in that sport. You know, you got to have that, create that mass behind a particular sport before people start putting money into it. If not, they're not going to get a return. And so, you know, I still believe that it doesn't happen overnight, or it can be two-pronged. Really, you can start from the top with the sponsors coming in, to sponsor big leagues, big competitions. But it also means that there's going to be a lot of grass work being done at the bottom to really, you know, ensure that the base grows and that, you know, there's interest in that whole activity.
Marcus would probably say that it's good business to invest in sports, but not many think so. So,
well, I mean, I think absolutely it is a good business and there is money to be made. And if you look at it, all of us are in the industry, right? None of us is an athlete sitting here. We're all, you know, obviously engaged and make a living with it. I think there's a couple of examples come to my mind. One is Singapore. I remember the year 2000, they set up a fund, which was at that time about $500 million Sing dollars was put aside for about, I think for a 10-year period, to drive three elements. One was exactly the whole grassroots concept of they want the Singaporeans out there, go out, run, jog, do something, you know, on the weekend. Second was marquee events, bring, you know, major sort of sporting events to the country to, again, build up that whole following of on a professional level. And third was build the industry, bring in agencies, bring in federations, create this. So typical Singapore style, when they put this together, they'll do it. And if you compare, you go to Singapore now on a weekend, literally there's in every corner of the country, you would have activities, you would have runs, you have bike races, you have swimming competition, triathlons, etc. So it's a much smaller country, therefore yes, it is easier to do and control it in a way. China is now doing exactly the same thing as well. They're going through the massive, you've I'm sure read about it, not just in football, of course, that maybe is a bit over the top, but there's a general huge push to build a sports industry and to build that sports culture. So it can be done, you know, it needs, and you really need to separate out the grassroots to the professional parts and all this stuff. They're not too, they worked in hand, of course, but they really they need their own attention. And I think the minute Malaysia does that, and there's no reason why you couldn't do it here as well, there is a passion for sports already. I mean, you just watch what happens during the Suzuki Cup or, you know, during Thomas Cup, these things. You see the country, there is a sporting culture. Maybe as a slightly of a couch potato sporting culture and not just being there physically playing it, but there is a starting point, and that's good, right?
Speaking of couch potato, I'm sure Dr. You have comments on, a lot of people comment about a football performance, and you know, going back to what Marcus has said, do we have that kind of supporting elements to help develop football?
Yeah, we do. I mean, definitely FAM, we have a lot of, in terms of sponsorship, yeah, the boys has been exposed, especially when we have the era of Harimau Muda. Harimau Muda is where we develop and we expose players abroad, like 19 years old, 20, 21 years old. The reason why we have success in 2009 SEA Games in Laos, where we won gold. Following year, we have a Suzuki Cup champion under Datuk K. Rajagopal, and follow up with 2011 SEA Games. I believe if you look back at the program that we have, the Harimau Muda players or program makes the difference. Where these boys are exposed to Slovakia League, where we were there for 6 months, 3 months, and we played in a lot of international games. And there's one stage when I was in Slovakia for 6 months with these boys. Datuk Rajagopal called up 11 players from my team to play with the national team. Preparation for the 2010 Suzuki Cup. And from there, the players got exposed with Battle League, and that is where I achieved success in 2011. Because, sorry to say, it's not that we are looking down at our league, but at the same time, we must know where our standard is. Example, like when we play in National Premier League in Queensland, Australia, there's a lot of talks, there's a lot of critics saying that why are we playing in amateur league? But that is how they run football in Australia. But at the end of the day, where is Australia football? They are up there, but we are still here. Because of amateur league, you are saying that we are playing in amateur league because of the words amateur, but they are much more professional than us. And there's one stage where Australia club, Wellington, I don't know which club is that, play in a World Club football, where during that time their players is, they are part-timers. and they still play in very high level football. So what do we want here? The sponsorship will come if we do well. And you look at football, the rights that we got for our M League. So there's a lot of sponsorship, not only for TV rights, but from other ways of sponsorship.
Each sport is in charge of its own destiny. And whether companies put money in that sport really will depend on that sport. And how those that are running those sports really ensure that that sport becomes popular, becomes interesting, becomes entertaining, and becomes have a lot of people coming through and grows. Sponsors are not interested in putting money. I'm sure Marcus will tell us that into something that is going to be static. They want it to grow, and the sport must be seen and actually be growing and popular.
What is Malaysia doing well? And perhaps we should focus on those core spots where we have the potential and maybe let go some of the rest. We'll discuss that after this short break.